Aubergines again, not aubergines again.
Never have too much
Too much
aubergines.
aubergines. This is a dish which normally is done using mince, beef mince, but today I will be doing a vegetarian version, which can be also adapted with beef mince, of course. I need to get 3 pieces, 3 nice slices of aubergine per aubergine, as is Julie and I eating, so I'm being very careful to ensure that I get 3 nice pieces. That's 1 portion. And that is the second portion. I'll keep these because I will be using them as well. I'm now slicing a few lines on one side of each piece of aubergine. Some olive oil inside a bowl. First important ingredient is paprika. This is 1 little teaspoon of sweet paprika. I'm also adding 1 little level teaspoon of garlic granules, and also a teaspoon of oregano. Some salt to taste, and a generous amount of pepper as well. And mix everything nicely with a little brush so that you get a nice and smooth consistency. I will be adding a little bit more olive oil, as I don't think it's going to be enough. So back to my tray, I'm going to be turning the aubergines the other way around so that the side I scored is facing down to start with, and I'll be brushing a little bit of my homemade, what can we call it, Julie? Marinade on one side of the aubergine. Turn them around so that the side that you scored is facing upwards, and this is how they're going to go in the oven. The reason why I scored the aubergines is because I want the marinade to go inside them, but also they will cook a little bit faster, which is always helpful, especially when you're hungry.
Especially when I'm hungry.
Perfect, I'll pop them in the oven for 20 minutes at 180 degrees. So while the aubergines cook in the oven, I'm gonna get the other ingredients ready. This is the other bits of the aubergines I didn't use, which I'm slicing into little pieces. And I'll make them also into tiny little cubes as well. Olive oil in a separate pan, and in they go. Onion, I'm using a red onion. You can use a white onion, or you can use are there any other onions rather than white? Shallots if you want, but red onions are perfect. By the way, a way to get an onion into very, very small cubes is if you chop it in half, then go across like this. I'm doing with a knife now. Don't go all the way though, just leave it a little bit there. Then score a few cuts this way around. And then, just like magic, you get very, very fine onion, just like the professionals do. The difference is that I'm not a professional.
I think of Gordon Ramsay would be a lot quicker.
Yes, but then I will lose a finger. I'm not Gordon Ramsay.
Less Gino da Campo, more.
Eh?
Less Gino da Campo, more Gino Ginelli.
Gino Ginelli. Cheeky bugger. Mind you, some people might not know who Gino Ginelli is. That's the ice cream, isn't it?
Yeah. Gino, oh Gino Ginelli.
Indeed, indeed.
Oh, have I gone back to the 80s? Was that from the 80s?
Yes, I think so, yeah, late 80s. And I'm going to be adding the onion to the aubergines. And I'll pop this on the hob while I get the other vegetables ready. And next I move on to the courgettes, and they go very well with aubergines, and this is ultimately a vegetarian dish. This is where I'm actually making the difference. If you wanted to, you could drop the courgette and use mincemeat instead. I've decided to go for vegetarian today.
We have had a very naughty weekend, so...
We did, yes. Too much meat.
Yes.
And this is courgette number 2. Don't be fazed by the volume of courgette, because it will go down quite a lot when it's cooked. So that's expectedly also.
But there are only 2 of us, darlings. That is still a lot of courgette for 2 people.
No, it won't be a lot. And after a few minutes, I'm going to be adding them to the onions and aubergines. And turn the heat up, by the way, as courgettes are quite high in water and they do need a good heat underneath them. And I'm now peeling 1 clove of garlic. This is the real job though, not the powder stuff. By the way, the reason why I used the powdered garlic for the aubergines is because I wanted to spread it, and using the whole garlic it wouldn't have been as easy. But you can also use a whole garlic if you want, rather than having to buy some garlic powder. It's good as well, but I think it goes better in that particular instance. This one, I'm gonna be chopping it into fine little pieces, and I will be adding it to the courgette and the aubergines. I'm gonna leave it to cook now for a good 10 minutes until everything goes down in volume. And occasionally just give everything a good mix with your spatula so that they cook throughout. So while I wait for the vegetables to cook, I'll get on with some of the spices. So this is 1 teaspoon of coriander seeds. I'm going to put them inside a pestle and mortar. You can use fresh coriander if you like, but I'm using the seeds as it is what I've actually got in my cupboard, and it doesn't really make much difference for this recipe. 1 small teaspoon of ginger, another small teaspoon of sweet paprika, and 1 small teaspoon of cumin. And give everything a good mix together. Back to my vegetables, which have been cooking very nicely, and I'm adding now 250 milliliters of tomato passata, immediately followed by my cocktail of spices. Followed by 100 milliliters of water, which I'm using in the same bowl of the tomato so that it gives a good rinse. So give everything a good mix, and make sure that once it reaches the boil, which is pretty much what I've got now, you turn it down and let it simmer for another 10 minutes. And we are ready to move on. So with the aubergines, what I'll do, the bigger ones, I'll place them at the bottom, and as I go progressively up, I will put the smaller ones on the top. My tomato mix is also ready, but I didn't put any salt. I always like to salt things at the end. Personal choices, really. But ensure you do salt it, because otherwise it'll taste very bland. I'm gonna test it a little to see if it's okay for salt. It's good. I'm now placing some of my vegetables and tomato on top of my very first slice. Here I've got some strong or mature cheddar, which I think goes very well with this recipe because it will melt quite nicely. Also, I have sliced 1 ball of mozzarella, and I'm going to be adding it as my second cheese.
Just for change.
Just for a change, indeed, yes. I'm adding some grated Parmesan cheese. And I'll move on to the next layer, and I will be repeating the process. And I would strongly advise to be very generous with your filling. I'm using courgettes as mostly because it's what I've got in the fridge, but they do go very well in this recipe with aubergines. But as I said earlier, if you want to do with mince, you can replace the courgette with mince, and I would strongly advise you use beef mince if you did. Also, you can choose to use different vegetables. People use peppers, they go very well instead of the courgette. Obviously, don't go mad with your vegetables, otherwise it will be difficult to build it. But choice of vegetables is entirely up to you. You can also use mushrooms, of course. So use whatever you have in your fridge. looking good. Here, we've built a nice, or two nice double-decker buses.
Triple decker.
Triple-decker. More cheese at the very top. The rest of my mozzarella as well. And a final sprinkle of cheese. And with that, they will be going in the oven for another 15 minutes at 180 degrees, and then we can eat them. See you in 15 minutes. We have a little problem. I made the sauce a little bit too liquidy, and I noticed that this particular one walloped over. So what I've done, I've put it back together again.
For the Americans, that's a Norfolk term for you.
Is it? Walloped. And I'm putting some toothpicks so that
This one's okay though.
this one is okay, it will not wallop.
Then another layer of cheese.
Another layer of cheese, and back they go inside the oven again. Another 5 minutes and it will be done. So, happens. And we are ready. Oh, even the one that walloped over looks quite nice.
Yeah. Smell lovely. Now just if you can lift it onto the plate.
That looks absolutely lovely. And this one, even this one, actually
That's yours.
That's mine.
That one's
looks
yours.
better.
Mine looks beautiful.
I'm gonna use a couple of spatulas and Julie's help to put them on a plate.
Wow.
Voila.
So that's the lovely one. Beautiful. And then, ooh.
Not so beautiful,
It
but
might
would
not be so
be.
beautiful, but it will still taste gorgeous.
Let's just try. Being. Let's go for it. Lots of cheese in here, which is great. Lots of cheese is what we want. Really good. Really aubergine, but also the flavor from all the spices is lovely, and the cheese works, Julie. Works lovely, but also, as I said before, you can make a meat eaten version, but absolutely spot on. Arrivederci e buon appetito. Ciao.